Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Friday, November 22nd, 2024. I am Jer, stay sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Joining me, as he does every Friday, Mr. Friday, to my far right. How are you, Devon O'Reilly?
Doing great, Jarek. Fun to be back in kind of our groove, you know?
For sure. And then next to you, we have a bonus Norris, the Prince of Brightmoor, Norris Howard. How are you?
I love doing the show with Devon because it's such a great perspective, and I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about today.
One of our listeners has decided to crowdfund a DNA test
Oh, really?
because they believe you're actually related, the two
We
of you.
might be. We did both grow up on the west side.
I have a black uncle.
See? There you go. You never know.
I'm just saying.
You never know. Could be long-lost cousins.
I appreciate you two so much. Well, we're going to talk about where we've been, what's open up. There's a lot of stuff that we've been to. We need to do some catch up on some things. So, you know what, Devon? Fridays are usually yours. The floor is yours.
Yeah, like I said, I love being back in kind of the what to know, man about town groove. We kind of set that aside the last few weeks as we went into kind of the political crap storm. But good to be back with the good vibes. So, a couple new places I went to. One, everybody should know of this place, Lady of the House.
Yes.
And we had talked about it's going to be opening soon. People have been clamoring for Lady of the House to open back up. As a matter of fact, as soon as I saw the news that they were accepting reservations, went on and tried to find one. It took a few weeks, so like they were already booking right up. Got one, which was now this past week, and so I got to check it out. And it's in the core city area. So first of all, they have moved spaces in case anyone needs to know. Alpino is now where it used to be. And Lady of the House is in that core city area, which is really building up into a cool little, like, I don't know what we would call it, like the hipster, like the core city is now the core of the hipster community.
Yeah, the feral hippies have moved out
Barda,
there.
you got Barda,
Barda's
Prince
over
Cafe with
there,
the naked
yeah,
carrots. You
yeah.
got the,
We're talking
Periodicals.
Grand River and Warren.
Yes.
Yeah, and I actually visited Periodicals, enjoyed it very much.
Isn't it nice over there?
Yeah, it's a very different vibe. It reminds me a lot of Corktown back in the day.
yeah.
Yes, hippies.
So
Hipsters or hippies or both?
Both.
a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah,
With love.
I'll get to that. I think it's a little bit of both
Yeah.
specifically. So that's where it is. It's a little bit smaller of a space than they used to have. It's probably, I would say, half of the seating. I mean, the other space, the old lady space, was pretty big. So this is pretty just straightforward L shape. You got your bar, you got your dining area, just past that, and the vibes are very similar though. You know, dark floral colors. You got your pinks and greens, that sort of thing. The menu is also very, very similar. So this is what I would say. Top level notes, delicious. It's still fantastic.
Okay.
It's as if you never left Lady of the House, or if Lady of the House never left us.
Mhm.
Where I think that's fantastic. What maybe some people might be going in thinking, oh, they've reimagined the menu, they're doing different things. They're not. So take that for what you will. It's really, really good, but it's not anything different. And I just wonder if, you know, is that okay in this kind of Detroit that's progressing so quickly in terms of our food scene? You know, is 2018 Lady of the House still one of the best restaurants in the city? Because that's what this is with all the favorites.
Yeah, so my question is, first of all, for those who don't know, what kind of cuisine are we talking about here?
So it's like Irish, European influenced, but your standard, you know, like American favorites. So some things that you can still find: that carrot steak, which is amazing, like the spiral carrot steak, the Parisian ham with the butter, with the honey butter on it, perfect. They've got prime rib. They've got a whole chicken that they'll do a roast up for you. They've got a really great oyster selection, and then some different like tartars, a couple different tartars, some crudos with like snapper. So it's a little bit all over the place, a little bit of seafood, a little bit of chops. They do a pork chop there. So, and then the cocktail menu is very straightforward, but still really good. It's not an expansive cocktail menu, but it's kind of playing the hits. So Lady of the House is definitely back to play the hits.
Now, when they're opening, is that what you kind of want to do? Right? Because so many people have been kind of jonesing for this place. It'll come up on social media every once in a while. Where's Lady of the House? Why isn't Lady of the House back? I wonder if this is something where they would maybe expand the menu a bit or do some things in some time, because you've got so many people wanting the old thing. You know, I think back to, we recently reviewed the new Sanders fudge sauce. Way better than the old jarred Sanders fudge sauce. But online, people are all mad because they made changes, even though it's better, even though it's using real sugar and not high fructose processed corn syrup. You know, people want the hits. They want what they had. And so I wonder if to start with the relaunch, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. And that very, very well could be the direction that they're going. I will say, Kate Williams, the chef, is very, very hands-on. We happened to have a table that was like right near the kitchen, and she was right there the whole night, like directing orders, calling up hands for different orders. And it was basically like my wife and I were kind of joking. We were like in our own little bear episode because we were just watching all fire this, hands here, add this. So that's kind of cool. But Kate is very, very involved. You know, sometimes you go to these. I wouldn't call Kate a celebrity chef, but she kind of is. I mean, she's been on
for
TV.
sure.
At this point,
As far as Michigan, I would say yes.
You go to some of these restaurants and you don't actually see that proprietor, but she was very visible and very attentive to everything that was going on. So, I mean, everything we had was just spectacular, just like we remembered it. It was interesting. The crowd was decidedly older. And I also wonder if this is like the kind of people remembering the old lady of the house. We were, and look, I'm not young anymore, Jer, but my wife and I were pretty much probably on the top, 10% youngest people there for the entire time we were sitting there.
I like to call myself a veteran young guy in those situations, but there are a raft of restaurants that are in that vibe right now that you go to, and it's a much older crowd. You know, I think about the last time I went to the bar at the rooftop of the book tower.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, campers, yeah.
Campers felt very much like an older kind of crowd.
So
because
Freya.
you higher prices, more refined kind of look, a lot of people leaning into that downtown as tourist destination kind of thing. I don't know, maybe that's just one of the flavors or patterns of downtown Detroit now.
Yeah, I think, it is. And I think hearing that lady at the house is back is really exciting because I didn't get a chance to go when it was open the first time. I'm super excited that it's back because I would like to experience it. You're the fourth person who told me about this carrot steak, and I need to try this out. But like, I don't know, the people in my circle are excited Street Beats back, like in 3rd Street. Like, that's what they're excited about. Like, that's the price point a lot of people around me are at. Like, can I get vegan McDonald's, basically?
Well, to be clear, I went to that rooftop bar on my birthday.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was a special event kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like to go to campers just because I like the views and the cocktails are great. But I think one of the things talking about sort of that price point and Lady of the House and why I think it's exciting that it's back is that I think for a restaurant that's had such a reputation, and in a weird way, not many restaurants here, we got a ton of great restaurants, but not many get that kind of reputation and that kind of sort of like hype around it. So the fact that it's back, the fact that it left, which is also part of why it's hype, is it went away, and now that it's back, I'm excited to see what they do with the menu, but I'm double excited to see if people keep the energy going and keep them open for a long time, because we're starting to become a serious food destination, like not just a food destination, like a serious food destination.
And that is what that's what Lady of the House is going to have to be, because one of the things they sacrificed in the location change was going from a Corktown, very hive of activity, out to this, kind of core city, Woodbridge, whatever you want to call it. But that makes it so that there's very little foot traffic. I mean, almost zero foot traffic.
You have to intentionally go to core city.
Barda was able to do it. I mean, so they kind of maybe they can play off of the fact that Barda's there. I think Puma is a new bar over there too. I haven't been there yet, but it's almost, that community becomes like its own destination. So Lady of the House is going to have to be, they're going to have to become and be the destination that we think they are, because you're not going to survive on, foot traffic.
No. So, Jared, we got a chance to check out a new spot ourselves.
We did. We went to Javier's.
Yeah. So if you don't know, that's down there on Brush.
Tucked away, like right by the Stevie Wonder mural.
Yeah.
Over by the
block
music
south
hall.
of
Yeah.
36th District.
I was going to say, you guys were mentioning Javier's. I could not picture where this
Yeah,
was.
yeah. So I forgot what it
Nobody
used to
can.
be called, but it's a block south of 36th District Court, a block north of Gratiot. So that block nestled right there
so-
across the street from the Hilton Garden Inn.
Oh, that location has been like kind of a revolving door in the last
Yeah,
few years.
it's tough because I think parking over there is weird. But Jer, you and I got a chance to go to check it out. They're doing some kind of Southwest and Mexican fusion stuff down there. But I think the food is a secondary attraction here.
It felt very vibey. Now,
Yeah.
you're talking about that block. I'm going to date myself because I remember the Courthouse Brasserie
Wow.
on
That's a
that
long
street.
time ago.
way back in the day,
That's a very long time ago, Jay.
where all the lawyers would go from 36th District Court. But
Indeed.
Javier's is a lot of vibes, man. Man, I felt like a little slice of like the old school East Side.
It felt it felt a little Eastland Mall a little bit, and I'm not saying that as a slight. It just it
Basement
did.
of Eastland Mall, 2002.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't even want to say basement, but definitely like there was a vibe there that felt very East Side, and I low key appreciated it because I don't, as a West Sider, I didn't get to experience a lot of the East Side anymore in my adult life. I did as a kid, so I have an affinity for East Side things.
I don't even know what this means.
Going to skate land and stuff like that.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like just East Side stuff. But it felt very much so like that. But what was very interesting is that the venue itself is split into two, where there's like on the left side, you got the restaurant where you're going to sit and you got your normal bar, restaurant kind of vibes. The decor, if you see it, you'll see what we mean in terms of like, it kind of feels like very turn of the century East Side decor, but it's nice enough to not feel kitschy.
Okay.
It's definitely going to be a place where, and here's something, I literally don't mean this as a slight. It's going to sound like it, but I mean this with all the compliments that I could say. I feel like it's going to be a place where a lot of folks have one of their first nice dinners.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is it's an upscaled place. It's elevated, but
Lots of like there's like marble accents and like
Yeah.
the bar glows.
yeah, but it didn't feel like the price points and the menu was going to be so advanced as a lady at a house or another place like that, to where, somebody who is a young professional or somebody who hasn't had the opportunity in life to do a lot of like super nice, like high cuisine type dinners can go out for this
Or
nice
I
dinner.
even should say like almost like a hipster cuisine.
Yeah.
That a lot of those places, like the lady of the house, I do get the feedback sometimes from listeners that sometimes we're a little hoity-toity with it.
Yeah.
And Javier's is not that.
It's not
So
that.
it wasn't pricey.
No,
I mean, it wasn't cheap.
Okay.
yeah, it wasn't cheap, but also at the same time, there's going to be some things there that people are going to enjoy very much.
Okay.
And I think what's cool about that is that there's a space for that. There's a market for that. Everybody's not going to afford being able to go to Les Supreme every weekend. But at the same time, everybody doesn't want to go to Applebee's every weekend. So how do you mesh with that?
So what I was picturing, based on like the media posts and stuff, was like a Latin steakhouse and cocktail bar.
Kind of.
It's not far off.
Not far off.
It's not far off. It's leaning a little bit less away, like from steakhouse, and just kind of more straightforward Mexican cuisine.
Okay.
But like the vibe is different than like what you would see covered in our Detroit.
Yes.
Shall we say?
Yes, that's kind of what I was trying to
Okay.
get to. Is that it feels more so like quote unquote neighborhood Detroit, real Detroit will patronize this place.
Gotcha.
And I
All right.
put that in quotes, right? So that was the vibe that I got from it. But then on the right side of the venue, it's just like a full blown like lounge.
Oh.
So this is also going to be a social venue. It's going to be a place that people are going to have parties, events, and so on and so forth. And I think that's brilliant because I think putting a restaurant right there was going to be difficult. But if you put a lounge right there, different story.
Well, and you're just a few blocks, a couple of 2-3 blocks from Greektown. You could connect all that together. You could do a little
Lions
thing.
games.
Lions games, all that. And this place is going to appeal to that wider crowd.
Yep.
Interesting. In the way you're talking about this is teeing up nicely to the other place that I wanted to discuss today that I went to. That let me explain Parlay Gaming to you, because you're gonna say, oh, wait a second, that's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I went to Parlay Gaming, which is the former beer exchange spot
Right there, Washington Boulevard.
right on Washington Boulevard. And it's a big space. And so it was open for lunch, which great for me. It was a nice walk. So I popped in for lunch this week, and it was kind of what I was expecting, and also kind of not what I was expecting. I didn't know what the Parlay Gaming kind of tie-in was going to be, and it wasn't immediately obvious. And it's still not obvious, but I did get a chance. The staff was super friendly. They admitted like, hey, this is like our first week, so ask us all the questions you want. We'll answer what we can, but we're all just kind of getting started and figuring this out. They have, side note, because it was beer exchange, they have, I think, like 80 taps. None of them are working right now. But that's just because we have to fill all these taps. We're going to have coffee on tap. We're going to have cocktails on tap. We're going to have beer on tap, but they had no... if you're listening to this, they had told me by the weekend. So maybe if you're listening by the weekend, they were going to start having some beers on tap. But they didn't have any beers on tap, which is a little odd because they have so many taps there. Now they have tons of TVs. So I knew I was getting into a sports bar, and I was happily not surprised. I was just happy to see that there were TVs everywhere. If you would go to this place on like a Sunday afternoon, Saturday night, something where there's like multiple football, basketball, you'll be covered. Like get some obscure. They were playing soccer. So
don't say that.
So no, this is one of the best things I can say about this place is this is where you're going to want to go to watch games. It's a great place to go watch games. And the menu was online, so it was one of those like scan the QR code, get your menu type of situations. It was so big. The menu is so vast. There's burgers, there's pasta, there's handhelds, there's salads, there's steaks. I was kind of overwhelmed because I just wanted lunch. So I ended up getting the I asked the bartender what they had seen people get or whatever, and so apparently the Philly cheesesteak dip was a popular item.
Okay,
it was delicious. It was really, really
awesome.
good.
Awesome.
Very well
What's
done.
the vibes though?
The vibes
my other thing is, how are the vibes, and how does it stand next to something like Gillies? Because we've gone from fewer sports bars to all kinds of sports bars.
So here's where we're starting to get some parallels. The bar, marbly, glowing, lit. There's a cigar lounge adjacent that isn't open yet. And when I asked the manager, I kind of just was kind of straightforward and said, so what is the kind of vibe of this place? Like, am I missing something with the betting or the? He's like, we want this to be an elevated sports bar, a high-end sports bar that's not your chicken tenders or mozzarella sticks in a basket place, but a place where you go watch sports, but also get lamb chops or seafood pasta or something, and things in that kind of realm. Really nice food, and they had a pretty full cocktail menu. So it was like the elevated sports bar concept, and you got your cigar lounge off to the side. Beneath it, they're going to have what he called a speakeasy, but as he started to describe it, it sounded more like a lounge area because he talked about bottle service and like booths and stuff, which to me doesn't compute.
Because that used to be like an arcade when
right,
beer
yeah.
exchange
So that
was there.
sounds like that's all out. I didn't go down there.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was really cool. I'm definitely going to go back. Here's something else to kind of point out. So a lot of these places at lunch are dead. Jerry, you and I talk like it's hard sometimes. I walk into these places and I want them to do well because I go in for lunch, and they're dead. Sometimes I'm the only person in there on occasion in some of these downtown lunch spots. So I was pleasantly surprised that there was actually a good amount of people in there. There was a lot. There was probably 25 people in at 12:30, middle of the week, and I walked past because I parked near there later that day, and about 4:30. Ton of people, probably 30, 40 people. Now I did notice something. Okay. And I'm going to tee up this conversation. Sure. Norris, I think you have the ideal perspective to kind of have this conversation with us. Is I noticed, for the fact that I walked through Capitol Park to get here. And in Capitol Park, I would say that 80% of the diners on any given lunch crowd or afternoon crowd are white. That's just a matter of fact. In Capitol Park and the restaurants. Just made it right. It's right there.
Literally
just
around
right
the
there.
corner.
And I mentioned lunch, and after I was the only white person in the restaurant the entire time I was eating lunch.
Yeah.
And when I walked by in the evening to my car, it didn't seem like there was any white people in there.
Every time I walk by, it's
so I was like, I didn't know how to feel in the sense of like I was really happy that that there was a lot of patrons in there, and I think they're going to do well. I know they're owned by Joik Bell as a former.
I was about to say
player.
the ownership group probably has something to do with that.
But like the vibes definitely were like it was different, and I was like, this is great. I hope it becomes more diverse because I just want more people in there. But like it started to make me think about like the spaces in downtown Detroit and how there are spaces where there's a lot of mix, a lot of diversity, but there's a lot of spaces that are just kind of feel like white spaces or non-white spaces.
Yeah,
And like, I don't know,
yeah.
what do you think about it? You notice that?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's even separated by age too. Like to a certain extent, that's natural, right? There's always going to be older bars, younger bars, sports bar, all that stuff. There, to a certain extent, I think that is to be expected. But I do think that for me, it does become somewhat of a concern sometimes because speaking about Parlay, the ownership group was gonna play into people going there. I'm in discourse, I'm in chat channels, I talk to my friends. We all want to go out and support Black businesses. So going to places like that's not beyond us, especially when they're just opening up. But I think as time goes on, places like Javier's, places like Parlay are, I don't want to say going to have to sort of open up to more people. I think people are going to have to open up to going there. Like that's the difference, right? Because you look at campers, you look at the Monarch Club, which I think is a little bit more diverse, definitely more diverse than campers. But I talked to some of my contemporaries, and I'm like, oh, I'm downtown. You want to go to the bar? And the place they want to go to is Queens. And like Queens is like neutral ground.
Yeah.
Like the young professionals, regardless of race or creed, are at Queens.
That's about as diverse as you can get in the downtown bar, for sure.
Yeah, in downtown Detroit. Like that is the hub. Campers, like you're talking straight up Birmingham, 65 and up. Like we are here from Phoenix. And
right, and across from, and it's funny because the juxtaposition across from Parlay sits La Supreme,
yes,
a fabulous restaurant. But let's be honest, if you were there on a Friday or Saturday night, you would not see
2 or 3 Black
Oh
people.
Yes.
man, I'm thinking back. Remember to that piece in the newspaper, one of the newspapers, where it's like, "Where have all the Black people gone?" or something.
And that frustrated me.
And that was
'cause I
years
like,
ago.
But it frustrated me because I was like, they're there. They're
Yeah.
just not where you're looking. They're
Yeah.
not in the restaurant you walked into.
They're not in the restaurant
Yeah.
you walked
They're there.
into, right? Because I'm at all of them. But the thing about it is I think there is something to be said about that, to fostering the community and fostering a vibe that makes people feel like that's where they should go. Because outside of game day, I've walked past Gillies, gone into Gillies, and seen maybe 2 or 3 Black folks.
Do you think it's the restaurants themselves, like unintentionally, but like when you're a restaurateur or whatever, and you're curating a vibe to your place, is that subconsciously in there? Because I think about like ownership too, of like, I think Central does a fantastic job of like kind of very diverse clientele.
But look at the ownership group.
owner. You'll know Dennis. He has a very diverse set of
Far more people go to Central because of Dennis than because of Central.
and that's a kind of a beacon of like really cool, diverse, hip culture. But I think a lot of that is the proprietor. Then I think, let me throw you another one. I think of a place like Zuzu. You guys, Jer, do you find yourself at Zuzu?
very rarely.
I don't.
I'm almost too old for Zuzu.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. Maybe that's just a young vibe. But
It's
that's
a young
big
vibe.
It's a very
downtown
young
place
and
that
loud
I don't-
vibe, according to a number of listeners
So
who went.
it's like, it's a chicken and the egg a little bit. Like, do you think that maybe restaurateurs are like unintentionally or subliminally like cultivating what they want their vibes to be, and then that
subliminal at all.
attracts?
I don't think it's subliminal at all. I think when you look at certain, at least this is my observation. And I think when you're looking at certain places, like I think Parlay's vibe is very deliberate, like based off the ownership group, based off the menu, based off what they want to provide, based off, like you said, they're talking about a speakeasy that's actually a lounge. Like that is Black coded. Like to me, like all the stuff he was talking about is like, I'm going. Right. But I think when you look at something like a Les Supreme, like a Sakazuki, or like so many other spots downtown, they're just, I don't want to say they're not necessarily made for me because I don't believe in that. But I do think that there's a very specific demographic that they have in mind. And that demographic sometimes is not Black folks. And I think that is an issue because I will go and break the demographic. I don't care who you made it for. I'm going if I think it's dope.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately the places that do it best are the ones that kind of offer a little bit of everything.
Yes.
You know, Central, the vibes, you know, it's like they're great at cocktails. They, you know, they have good food.
Or Brakeman. That was actually another place I was thinking
Brakeman, yeah.
Brakeman. Like, go to Brakeman on Saturday night. Everybody,
because everyone can get down with the fact that they have TVs and they have like games there and the token thing. Like it's very
and beer and chicken,
and that's why.
Like,
yeah, exactly. And beer and
Mr.
chicken.
Dip's near there.
Yeah,
It's
and
very-
Mr. Dips.
Everybody
So-
goes to Mr.
But
Dip's.
the TV's beer, chicken, like everybody going.
So if proprietors do care about this, they should look at the places that do it well. And I will go back to Parlay to say that I agree with you, North. They're probably a good example because you know what else is agnostic to race is sports.
Sports.
And they have a ton of sports on TV, and I think everyone's going to want to go watch sports here.
And low key, a marginally better parking situation than Gillies.
That's true. Yeah.
What makes a place welcome in these situations? Like,
So-
can we define it a little bit?
I think for me, it's going into a place and, you know, we talked about this off air. First of all, the cover. Like, I'm not paying to get in. I'm already about to overpay you for this drink.
That's a coded thing too. I
yeah.
feel like you're right. If I ever was approached and like asked for cover, I just would be like, no, this is not a place I'm going.
I'm good. So I think there's that, which, you know, I think certain places have moved away from, and I'm very happy about that. I think if you're a straight up club, like if you're like Deluxe Flux and like that's your thing, sure, charge a cover. But if you're a bar, a sports bar, and you're charging a cover, absolutely not. But I think another thing that makes me feel welcome is looking at the staff. When I walk in and I look at the staff and I say, okay, who works here? Right? That's important to me. Like, that's part of the reason why I actually really like Freya, because I go to Freya and I pay out the ass, like, for some really good food. But not only do I see a diverse workforce in the kitchen, I see a diverse workforce on the floor, and the same people have worked there from the day it opened. So that tells me these people make decent money, they feel good working there, and it's a diverse place by nature. So I will keep going there, period. Like, those are two of the big things for me that make me go, okay, I want to go there. The crowd is whatever, because that can change overnight.
Oftentimes, I feel like people use pricing as the shorthand, and I think that's incorrect.
No, because black folks got money too. Like, you know, we got to get away from that. You know what I mean? Especially here in Southeast Michigan, where, you know, we still got Southfield, we still got Oak Park. These people have cars. They can drive
Bloomfield,
downtown. We still got Bloomfield. These people can drive downtown and go to wherever they want. But I think it cost prohibition is something that plays everybody. I don't think that's necessarily a black white thing, but yeah,
Because people will, to your point, and I believe this. I mean, people will pay good money for a good night out, like an enjoyable night out. I don't care what your race is. Like, you'll drop a couple $100 or more if it's a great night
Listen.
out, and that just maybe depends on what your idea of a great night out is.
exactly. Like, listen to me, okay? If you ever been to Vegas in March when people just got their tax returns, okay, let me tell you something. That doesn't got nothing to do with race, okay? When people got extra money to spend, they'll spend it. You know what I mean?
It's just about what is it on? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that for me, it's like, hey, it's like, Devon, what was your great night out? I would probably tell you about the drink I had, or like the whiskey I tasted, or the scotch I had, or this amazing cocktail I had, or maybe I might talk about the scallop or the piece of fish. But I realize that's a very specific. There's people who wouldn't even order any of those things, let alone care about them. But maybe it's for them, it's just the pure enjoyment. They did something new. They played a game. They
music was slapping.
They had the music. Like, those
Yeah.
are things that I don't even think about. But like, for someone else, that's a great night out, and they'll pay for it. So just give people a good time, I guess. I
give
don't know.
people a good time. And I think with a place like Parlay and with places like Javier's, I think if people can patronize them of all walks of life and they can succeed, you'll start to see some of these walls of downtown starting to break down. Because right now you got Queens, you got Floods, you got Monarch Club. That's about it if we're talking about like specifically sort of black coded, like Detroiters go here, like not tourists, like
I don't leave them yet.
Detroiters
Is
go
Savannah Blue still open?
I don't even know, man.
Right?
Like, and
Less
that
than
used to be another spot.
I think it
where-
is.
Yeah, I
because
think
it had the
is.
willow, the
Yeah, oh, right,
speakeasy beneath it. Like,
right.
I don't even know.
Yeah, but like that's another spot. So you only had a handful of
It's
spots.
open.
Yeah, you got a handful of spots where it was like, okay, locals go here, like natives go here. And you know, I think the more we can break that down, the
sure.
better downtown will be for it.
Well, listeners, I would love to hear from you on this one. I think we all would.
Yeah. Oh, and Sweetwater too.
Oh, yep. I would love to hear about your places that you feel bring people together. Let's talk about downtown, greater downtown, the city, or the region. Let's open up this conversation.
Yeah, what's a spot
I want
like
recommendations.
elsewhere? That's what I want to know. Cause like Ferndale, I feel like everywhere in Ferndale I can go to, like, and I see everybody. Like
Fascinating.
that's the thing I like about
I'm
Ferndale.
actually that surprises me too.
Yeah, if you go to like Public House on a Saturday, like everybody, Imperial, everybody.
Well, I think that ties back to a previous episode where it needs to not just be about the city, like
Yep.
the conversation.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
want to hear all across Metro Detroit, what are places that are doing this stuff well? dailydetroit@gmail.com. That's dailydetroit@gmail.com, or drop something in the comments if you're checking out the video. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
I'm Norris Howard.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/dailydetroit. Local media requires local support to survive. With that, remember that you are somebody, and we will talk next week.